Yeah, sound should be fine. Because the mics are there.
Oh, so that will get where you go.
That's the mic for the sound, yeah. So they can hear us.
Hey, good evening, expecting stories weer aan. Mensen, kan jullie post op? Ik ga met Stefano Adams in the studio. I'm just gonna stop the music here and Here we go. Welcome to Cape Flats Stories. Tonight we're going to talk about the ongoing gang violence on the Cape Flats. It's also affecting other areas of it as well. So can you guys hear me? Is your audio clear? Before we start, person CCC Beacon well representing alle vrede goeienaand, PA for Change, John Lakay, Marcel Muller, good evening you guys. As we know, additional law enforcement. What about the people? Okay, we're going to talk about that just now. We want to start quickly. So I saw an article in the papers this weekend that Cape Town is the third most beautiful city on earth, right? So that is actually a quite compliment. But if you go back into the papers of February, you will also read that Cape Town is the fourth most dangerous city in the world. So you have this beauty on the one side and you have the evil on the other side. And that's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to start with the question. And I'm going to give everybody a chance. I'm just going to add everybody quickly. Good evenings, Kasim Parker from Pagat. Welcome to Cape Flats Stories. Good evenings, good evenings. And then we also have Nazir Polser from the EFF. Thank you for joining us, sir. And then we also have I must say, Councillor Angus Mackenzie. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. And then we so start the first
Sorry, Stan. I just want to test sound because I've had to move on to mobile data now. Can you hear me?
Perfect. It's perfect.
Cool.
So I can hear you. So the question tonight, allow Councillor Parental to maybe start with this question. The first question I want to ask, because we don't have a lot of time goes so quick. So I want to ask the question, is national government and local government really doing enough to save lives on the Cape Flats? Are they really implementing processes and strategy that is saving lives? Councillor, over to you.
Is that even a question?
I don't know.
The proof is in the pudding.
It's the proof in the pudding.
I say statistics don't lie.
So
3,500 young boys died last year. 3,500 young boys died the year before. 3,500 young boys will die this year. Since the advent of democracy, we've lost 200,000 lives on the Cape Flats. Statistics don't lie. It does not matter who runs this province. Young talented boys keep dying. No. If you ask me my honest opinion, I don't think so. I don't think there's a single mother on the Cape Flats. I think any sphere of government is doing its bit.
Yeah.
You said that Cape Town was the fourth most dangerous city in the world. Statistical fact, I can't argue with it. But let's take the suburbs out of this equation where there's proper policing, enough living room, security companies, education, decent health, proper running water, no feces in the streets. Let's take that out of this equation. Let's focus on the real Cape Town, not the Cape Town that the tourists see. Cape Town automatically becomes the most dangerous destination in the world. So no. No. It's a no from me. Let me act like Randall. What's his name? No.
It's a no from me. So, in other words, the leap enforcement officers and all those things that city is implementing, you feel is not really contributing to fight crime.
I'm going to accept every warm body we can get on these Cape Flats, every single one.
Okay.
But I'm going to put the rider with it. 3 months training, and on the road you go, in the fourth most dangerous city in the world. You might as well give these kids batons and make them patrol in Manenberg. What is LEAP going to do for me right now? If a LEAP officer is deployed in Hanover Park, but he lives in Hanover Park, who's he arresting? He's going to fear for his life.
That's right.
It makes no sense. You know, I would have taken that LEAP budget and I would have sent 500 kids to rehab every month. And that will help us address the crime issue. Because if you take 500 heroin addicts off the road, the taxpayer saves millions in terms of goods being stolen, cars being smashed, vandalized, woman being robbed, go on. But that's not this government's plan, is it? So if you want my 5 cents, get me a government from Mars.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to give it over to Councillor Angus Mackenzie, just to maybe from his side, just to explain to us, because I know in Bondiville, a lot of LEAP officers has been employed. From what I've heard, some people said there is a bit of a change, but from yourself, sir, have you seen any change? Is government doing enough, local and national government?
Look, so I think, let me start off, and I understand more than anything else the relevance seeking Fadil Adams in all of this. To remain relevant, he'll need to criticize everything, even if something is working. I understand that. And I'm quite sure many of the viewers do. But let's honestly answer your question. National government is not doing enough. It is very clear that there's a strategic plan from national government side to cripple the economic growth, the stability, and the safety of the Western Cape. We see that stand in our rail infrastructure that is not functioning. We see that in the promises being made week after week, year after year, to pump money into our rail infrastructure, and it's not getting off the ground. Not too long ago, the Western Cape government instituted what was called the Kailicha Commission of Inquiry. What that commission sought out to do was to understand what was happening within the South African police services within this province, and more specifically within the city. And it was alarming to us that while the United Nations
You see, Gosling has a face.
one policeman to every 250 Cape, you had one policeman to every 878 members of the public. In a place such as Limpopo, that does not suffer from 10% of the crime that we suffer from, you had one policeman to over 600 residents. So it was very clear that the deployment of police officers, the management of police towards the Western Cape is geared to creating some form of instability in this province. Now, these are the facts. They are not rhetorics. They are not asking for governments from Mars. They are the facts. And it is no doubt that thousands of people have lost their lives and continue to lose their lives. But what the Western Cape and the city of Cape Town did a year or two back, and what we unfortunately having to continue to do as national government continues to fail, is to carry the burden of government, was to bring out the law enforcement advancement program. Now, what Fadil says again is incorrect. We do not employ or deploy officers from an area to work in an area. I don't think that those people are that naive to do something as silly as that. But what I can tell you is that today, what I can tell you is that today, and I speak of this out of pure experience, that Bonteheuwel is probably the safest township in the city of Cape Town today, with more than a 300% decrease in gang-related crime in that area year on year. Nyanga is no longer. Hold on.
Okay.
You asked me. I'm answering you. Nyanga is no longer the crime capital of South Africa, and various other stations and precincts that fell within the top 10 are no longer in that top 10 anymore. Now, it is not the duty. It is not the duty of provincial or the city of Cape Town to be the police. The Constitution has afforded that responsibility to national government and the South African Police Services. And if we want to do anything constructive out of this discussion tonight, if we want to do anything constructive out of this discussion tonight, then everyone that's on this panel must agree and join the fight along with us to devolve policing powers to the Western Cape so that we can deploy police to where they are needed. Because the Kailicha Commission of Inquiry has shown us that that is not happening. Thanks, Dan.
Okay, thank you.
Can I give a direct response to this, man?
Okay, you can give him now. I just want to get the other gentleman as well. I'll give over to you now, Councillor. I just want to give to Brother Cousin Parker from Packet as well. Maybe we can just hear his point on this. Is national government and upper government doing enough from his side? Okay, we just need to unmute you quickly.
Sorry. Yeah.
Cousin, there we go.
Yeah. Good evening, gents and audience. Thanks for having us. Look, if anybody in their right mind says the answer to that question is yes, then they are from another planet. But so I think the answer is a clear no, both from national and provincial, whatever you call it. If you are a mother that's lost a child, your crime statistic is murder is 100% because you've lost the child. So we're saying until such time that the gangsterism is gone, that murder becomes something that makes a front page headlines, we have not done enough and we are incapable of fighting crime. What we're saying is that let's not play, I'm just saying, I would have liked to stop it saying the answer is an absolute no. But what concerns me is that while we need to all knuckle down and a show like this should be to bolster each other's energy to fight crime, I see too much of even the first two respondents, bylines being the provincial is better than national, this party is better than that party. We're never going to get there. The question that Paget says is, guys, if we are all on one page to say crime must stop. So if you are carrying on crime, you're on one side of the line. If you are stopping crime, you're on the other side of the line. If you are stopping gangsterism, you're on this side. If you are with gangsters, you're on the other side. Then we separate the issues. Then we work together to fight it.
Thank you so much. I'm going to give over to Nazir quickly from the EFF. Let me just add in quickly. Commissioner, what do you think? Your opinion? There we go. Nazir, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Nazir?
Hello.
Thank you.
There we go. Just quickly there.
Thank you very much.
Nazir, can you hear us?
And good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
We can hear you. That's right. Yes.
I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah. So you can talk. You can tell us if you agree if national government and local government are really doing things.
Okay. Let me go. Stan, well, good evening once again, and assalamu alaikum to you and your viewers. Yeah, the short answer is no. But I want to get some of the stats of the Western Cape, and that leads to crime, because we have to. Crime is a symptom of far bigger problems that we are experiencing. 1/3 of young people in the Western Cape, 25, are not in education, employment, or training. They're on the streets, and they're being socialized into failure. And over the past year, there were 990 murders in the Western Cape, and that's an increase of 29% of the previous year. Now, if we look at unemployment, if we look at school dropouts, there's a huge increase in unemployment. There's a huge increase in school dropout. Last year alone, we speak about the Western Cape education system, and we will see that we just that up to the world has steady level. If we look at national government has been instrumental in using economic process of the people in the Western Cape. National government has depleted people in fishing communities. It's become a ghost town. Young states that would not employ a couple of streets, this bomb, and it's only going to get worse. So I think government as well, provincial government, have to share in the blame. The sharp time in the quality of life of ordinary people in Cape Town, on the Cape Flats, and elsewhere.
Nazir, thank you so much. I just want to come back to Mr. Adams quickly. There's a question that I see that has popped up here. Let me just do this quickly. Fadil, the ceasefire initiative, right? For many years, and I mean, and I'm talking now since the 90s, people had always tried to, come up and talk to gang bosses. In Lavendale, it hasn't been successful. I mean, and I'm talking now from the 90s, from the late 90s, the early 2000s. The imams and the pastors tried to, and the activists tried to gangsters. In your case, do you think this is something that is going to work? Because at the end of the day, we need to look at the social ills. We're not really fighting gangsters. We're fighting the social skills in the communities. We have problems where we still have, one high school in every area, 2 primary schools, 3 primary schools. The Cape has been set up so for us to fail, and that is unfortunately money is not being really invested into the infrastructure. So they will maybe temporarily sort of hold, but what do we do after that?
Okay, so I'm gonna give you the straight answer.
Yeah.
You are familiar with Beacon Valley, Mitchell's Plain.
Yeah.
Has anybody mentioned the decrease in gang violence there? You don't see it on the media.
Yeah.
But you know who's pivotal to that?
Mm-hmm.
Myself and Dwayne Jacobs.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, we were dragged to court last year.
Yeah.
Because we stopped the construction site because they weren't employing people from Mitchell's Plain.
Yeah.
Right. So we stopped fiber contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Our only insistence is that you will employ our locals.
Yeah.
So what we do, we take 5 kids with no gang affiliation.
Yeah.
Then we take 2 gangsters, and we take 2 gangsters from another gang, and we make them all work in that same trench. And you know what? They find out that they're not that different from each other, and they start earning money, and they have a sense of dignity because now I can do X, Y, and Z, all those things that previous efforts, let me put it like that, haven't done. I cannot expect you to put down the gun and put nothing in your hand, whether it be a pen, a spade, a book, but I gotta keep you occupied. And we're going to approach the Hanover Park issue with the same. It's going to be a very simple thing. Gangsterism is a social ill. How do we combat it? All of us can agree.
Yes.
Jobs,
That's right.
sporting opportunities, better living conditions. So let's get to work. I don't see what the big fight is about. What we're doing here is not rocket science. We're not inventing fire.
Yeah.
We're doing the simplest, most basic things. On the issue, I just want to correct my brother from Pagat. And you know what? I do support Pagat. I don't care what anybody thinks. The presenter asked a political question. It required a political answer. I'm not playing politics. That other councillor, the Scottish South African, took a shot at me. I didn't jump up. Yeah, it's what he wants me to do. He says that my question remained relevant. This coming from the bar that sang a Ghostbusters song for relevance. I mean, you go figure. You want to know why our kids are dying? Because him come here and apologize. They want to come and tell us what a fantastic place the Cape Flats is. How lucky we are to live here. The body count tells me a different story. Quick, in Langa and Pontyville and Kraaifontein, the murder rate is down, but we do not mention Hanover Park artery. We don't talk about it. You see, his administration is in a hurry to claim the credit when the rate goes down.
Yeah.
Where it goes up, no, it's a national competency. Can you see the rush? We want the trains, we want the trains, we want the trains. Yeah. But let's talk safety and security, now it's a national competency. Maybe I'm stupid, Stan. Maybe you're stupid. Maybe the voters are stupid. I know the councillor is stupid. So I'm done with you, Angus. I'll focus on people on my level.
Okay. I'm going to give over.
Yeah, look, when you win an award, Fadil, then you probably will have some ability to talk about things that are important. But as long as you're winning PR seats, let it be. But let's get back to the serious. Let's get back to the serious issue here. Because as long as you're winning an award, you represent no one, my friend. As long as you
Let me ask you a question. To do your job, Angus.
Not winning an award, you represent. Can we get back to the issue at hand? The issue at hand, yes, sir. Stan. The issue at hand. The issue at hand is that as long as someone that does not represent people cannot speak for people. Let's just get that clear. He's not won an award, and he will in all likelihood never win an award. And that goes for my EFF brother as well. And my EFF brother understands that. That's why he doesn't make an issue about that. But let's get back to the point at hand here. We are extremely quick. To call gangsterism a social problem. And I would agree that gangsterism is in fact a social problem. But we must not assume that gangsterism has only been around for the last 5 years. Gangsterism is as long as been around as long as what prostitution has been around, which is the oldest living type of employment the world has ever seen. So let us not say that the only factor behind gangsterism sits with social issues. Because the biggest gangsters are living the most lavish lives, and we all know that. So let's just be very clear. We have a serious dysfunctionality when it comes to any form of justice in this country. It cannot be, Stan, that when a gangster is arrested, he is released within 12 hours. Now, if we're not going to get the justice system working optimally, and we're going to and we're going to continue in a situation where police are unable to do their jobs, then we're going to find ourselves not just in a problem today, but for the months and the years to come. And that is something that none of us can argue about. Gangsterism will continue to be with us for the longest possible time, unless we ensure that justice is sorted out in this country, that our criminal justice system is working, and that our criminal justice system is seen to be just. It cannot be that other criminals are getting caught, prosecuted, and spend 15 years in jail, and gangsters that kill people. Let us not mistake the fact, and we must never have a soft thought for the fact that gangsters murder people. I will never negotiate with a gangster. I will never interact with a gangster. A gangster's only place for me is to be in jail because he has murdered and terrorized the community, irrespective of whether that community is poor, irrespective of whether that community suffers from various other problems. The fact is that gangsterism is a choice that many young people are making, despite the fact that within communities, people are making better choices. And so let's not look for excuses for gangsters, Fadil. There we're going to disagree with each other very badly, my friend.
Angus, we disagree on everything. Let me explain something to your limited grasp.
Sorry,
Now you see, this is the problem.
Stanley,
You speak about
Stanley, I think
to Brother Cousin quickly.
I think you need to be fair. You know, the idea is, I thought that we would be sitting and discussing things in a sort of rational way. I'm not saying you're being irrational. This is an emotive issue, but I think we need to give each other a chance to speak. Now, the issue is that I might have an axe to grind with a whole lot of people. I represent an organization, Paget. We don't need to be liked. Neither do we need to like other people, but there is an issue at hand. And, I didn't know I was going to agree with what Angus was saying. But, the issue really is that I don't care where you come from. If you have the attitude that gangsterism and gangsters are bad and they need to be eradicated, then I'm with you. And those were the words that Angus said. The only issue that I just want to say is that maybe it's to do with the way we speak, but not all gangsters belong in prison or must die, because there are some that have recently been brought into the gangster fold. And if we as a community usher them out of gangsterism before they've committed the crime, then that must also be our objective, to keep them, to usher them out, to keep them out. But by all means, if you've committed a crime, it doesn't matter whether it's small or big, you belong in jail or you actually belong dead. Because our constitution says death penalty is not right, but we need to change the constitution. But that's maybe an argument for another day. The issue that I just want to say, can we maybe focus on where we have common ground in opposing crimes? So what we're talking about is gangsterism is in place in order to predominantly keep a business in a certain location alive. In most cases, drug business. So if we want to kill drug business, we need to kill gangsterism. In the Western Cape, they work hand in hand. In other countries, there might be other situations that lead to gangsterism, but these are the essence of things that we need to deal with. So I don't want to hog the airwaves, but what I'm saying is that when we're looking at this, we can't look at it in isolation. And I'm not saying that all of what Fadil was saying is wrong. But my friend, if you have seen that in one instance or 10 instances, you've been able to get two gangsters to dig a trench and it worked, it doesn't mean it's a model that has worked. Because we know that there's the perception. Sorry, this is what I just want to. I'm not going to. I want to say, we need to take a breath and say, there was a time not very long ago when people against gangsterism and drugs in mass took to the streets and gave the drug dealers and the gangsters a run for their money. And they gave them such a fright that they were on the back foot. It was only, now I'm talking national government and local government, it was only national government and local government and prosecutors and police that came to the rescue of drug dealers and gangsters. Otherwise, they would have been off the face of the earth. What we're saying is that we're not bemoaning the point that we've had people serving 20 years, we still have 2 brothers sitting in prison. What we're saying is that we've learned that we might have to adopt a slightly different attitude. We might have to mop up things, but what we can't do is have a different stance towards drug dealers and gangsters, because drug dealers kill. Drug dealers kill. And when you're dealing with a killer, you can't be sympathetic. And gangsters support and cover for drug dealers. We need to deal with them, and we need to all work together to deal with them decisively.
Kasim, thank you so much. I'm going to give over to Nazir Paulson. Nazir, are you there? Nazir, what is your take on this? Okay. Nazir, we're going to have
Can
to
you
come
hear
back
me,
to you.
Stan?
Yeah. You can go ahead.
Stan,
Yeah. I can hear you, Nazir.
Stan, look,
You may go ahead.
we can't have this narrow view. Gangsterism, can you hear me? Gangsterism is from
I can hear you.
start the opportunities here in the West. In the gangsterism at its worst, young people. We are going to be with the issue. The West Cape, not friendly people are able to participate in the economy of this province. The economy in the Western Cape is very closed. It locks out everyone. Fadil correctly says he had to go and fight to get people employed. Why must people fight to get employed? Because while we are not employing people, and while we are not opening up the economy to everyone, people will go and create. There will be an opportunity in drugs, and along with drugs comes gangsterism. So, as much as I bemoan the presence of gangs in our communities, I am saying we need to equally also create alternative opportunities for young people other than gangsterism. Gangsterism shouldn't be the only option that people have, because Pagat will be busy from now till kingdom come having to deal with gangsters if we do not create an environment where everyone feels that he can prosper without being a gangster or resorting to crime. And as I've said, over the past year, there's been over 24,000 contact crimes. 992 of those crimes were murders, and they are mostly gang related. So this is the type of environment that is being created by the harshness of the Western Cape government. National government is not innocent in all of this. They've allowed a once thriving clothing and textile industry in the Western Cape to die out by allowing cheap imports. So we have to look at how this economy is run and how this economy has become closed and monopolized by few people. So as much as I believe that we have to tackle this twofold, we have to ensure that the criminal justice system doesn't have an open economy where young people are able to access and participate in that economy. addition to the problem here. The DA will not eradicate gangsterism and drugs. All they've done was contain it to certain areas, poorer communities. And you and I, or whoever, will always want to go and live where it's safer for our families. So why must it be that people have to flee from communities where they are born and grew up in to escape gangsterism, to escape the high levels of crime? Because ultimately, when they've depleted resources in a particular community, they will move on to the next one. We've seen our police had to go and deal with the issue of drug dealers in Portugal over the past weekend. It's been unheard of that you would have the incidence of drugs in our rural communities, but it's happening, and this is the Western Cape, especially the Cape Flats, where they've depleted resources.
Yeah.
Stanley.
Yeah, I think our sound is very bad. There's a bit of a delay
Yeah, I
as
think
well.
it's got a lot to do. It's got a lot to do with the load shedding as well, bud.
Yes. But let me just come back. I do apologize about that, but let me just come back quickly. You know, the solution, we're looking for solutions tonight, and I know we still have about a half an hour left. We won't get solutions, but I think one of the things that we need to maybe talk about.
No, Stan.
Yes.
Stan. On your point of solutions. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Because
Okay,
I think
okay.
we would achieve so much more. And forgive the darkness, there's absolutely no light in where I am at the moment. But I came here tonight not to pick fights with people that are actually a non-entity to me. I came here tonight to try and understand, or to try and take what I've done, what you can do, what the others can do to try and make things better. Not necessarily for the now, but for the future that's coming for our children and our children's children. That's why I'm here.
But
And unfortunately, I have to speak.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I have to
But I hear
speak
what you're saying.
of the successes
Yes.
of the community that I represent. I have to tell you how we managed to reduce gang-related crime by over 300% in that area. Now, gangsters are still there. We've not taken gangsters and taken them and they've gone back to another world. They're still there. But how have we been able to motivate residents? How have we been able to motivate communities to take back their streets and to pimp these gangsters and to go and testify against these gangsters, and for mothers to say we're not going to handle what our children are doing anymore? I wish I could share my screen, but it's a bit of a challenge now. Just this morning, I got a message from a mother in Bonteheuwel to say that, Mr. McKenzie, ek kan nie meer so aangaan nie. My kind het 2 guns in die huis. Dis waar die guns wegsteek, en die is waar hy nou is. Julle kan nou die polisie stuur na my huis toe. Now, when are we going to get to a point where Nova Park, Mitchell's Plain, Ocean View, Manenberg, Atlantis starts getting to that point where they say that give us the resources, give us the neighborhood watches, give us law enforcement, give us some form of SAPs, give us a criminal justice system that somewhat works for us, and we as communities will do our bit to make sure that in this street we're not going to allow gangsterism and crime to flourish. In this street, we're going to make sure that our children are going to school and not sitting on a street corner. In this street, some mother is going to take care of another child because that child's mother is too busy with all the other stuff she's doing. How do we take what we've done in a place like Bonteheuwel and how do we expand it? How do I go to Fadil and say, Fadil, come on, my friend, let me give you some of the ideas that we came up with in Pontyville. Let me help you in Hanover Park. Nazir, tell me where you having challenges. I work very well with Pagat, and I'm in the same boat like everyone else here. I have worked with Pagat in Pontyville, and I've got no qualms about it, and it's been in the newspaper, and I don't care. But how do we work together to ensure the future of the next generation to come? That's why we here stand. Not here to pick fights and with irrelevant people. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to try and find solutions.
Can I just come in here?
If I can,
I just want to come in here. I'll give you guys now. Just give me 1 second. Let me just come in here.
I would like to comment before he splits his wrist because he's not the deputy
I'm
mayor.
going to give you. I'm going to give now to you, Father. I promise you. But I just want to say this, Angus. Our people are still very much afraid in areas to talk out about gangsters, because remember, the gangsters stay next door to us. The gangsters live in the community. Gangsters are sort of dangerous people. We have witnessed that, you know. So we can't promise people that we're gonna take care of them, because at the moment, we hear about it every day. We see how these cops are standing in houses. We see how these cops are working for merchants. So I think people are much better. So the reason for last year said they will look after the people, but I think people are so much afraid because of, you know, if we can't trust sex, how can we trust?
Now, Stan, you make a very critical point. And let me tell you, Pontyville was no different to that. You make a critical point. But here's the deal, Stan. Here's the deal. Gangsters are not aliens sent from Mars. Gangsters are our children. They are our grandchildren. Now, there is a fundamental problem that no government can sort out. Not local, not provincial, not the United Nations. No one can sort out. There's a fundamental problem. When you stand, fear your children, then there's a problem. If my lighty I've got three boys. If one of them must come and talk nonsense to me, I will take them into that room and I will deal with them effectively. Right? Because that's the way my father dealt with me. Now, if you are scared of your own children, then there's a fundamental problem that no one else can solve except you as a parent. So let us not shift away from the fact that parents play a critical role in the development of gangsters, in the nurturing of gangsters, and the future of gangsters. Parents play an exceptionally important role in that. And so let's not exclude them from this conversation. Because if a mother is harboring a gangster, that mother is as to blame for the sins of a gangster. If a sister or a brother is harboring a gangster, they are as to blame for the murders and the bloodshed of that gangster.
I just want to give over to Fadil. We're not being fair towards Fadil. We need to give you also a couple of minutes.
You're not being fair to your listeners because you're making him listen to this. For God's sake. Yes, parental guidance.
Yeah.
My father's 82. I'm still scared of him.
Yeah.
I became a gangster anyway. It was waiting. It's there.
Yeah.
The systemic issues, the ones he won't address. I'm never going to debate this man again. I will not debate this man again. He doesn't know about the Cape Flats because he's never lived there. Who does he represent?
I'm not your issue,
Shut
Fadil.
up, I'm talking.
Okay, just one
I'm not your issue, Fadil.
I'm talking.
Okay, just give us just be fair.
Fadil, I'm not your issue.
If you open your...
Okay, let us listen to Fadil quickly. Can we just leave the
spoke to a
fighting?
woman yesterday with tears in her eyes. She says, my son is a gangster. I do not hide it. And if he's committed a crime, then they must keep him. But my baby son is a good boy. So has the mother failed? She's done her best. He does not refer to the systemic issues right here. Hoeveel van ons mense, and it's a norm and it is so wrong, smokkel vir die pot. You know it, Stan. He doesn't. Hey? People that do the wrong thing just to get by would have been a good person 10 years ago if the economy was open. If he wasn't living in a squatter camp. What the hell does this man know? I don't want to hear his voice again. Nazir, from Pagat, you are free to engage me. I don't want to talk to Angus no more.
I'm going to give over to Butakasim quickly. Butakasim.
Fadil, I'm not your issue, Fadil.
Shut up.
No, it is not Angus.
Oh, Marv.
Apologies.
Marv, I
Okay.
thought it was Angus.
Sorry, Mr. Kasi.
Marv,
Can we just get the
Okay,
background?
no,
Yeah.
no, Stanley, you know what? Let me just say, I'm not an angel, man.
Yeah.
But Fadil, you're not doing your own cause, and you don't have to take what I'm saying. You don't not doing your own cause any good by adopting an attitude like that. And let it be just said by me. You don't have to. You can shut me up also. But at the end of the day, you have many good points that come through. But when you adopt that sort of attitude, it actually makes even me not want to listen to you. And I'm actually saying that we as a group, if we know our target is that we want to get rid of gangsterism, you have your strategy, Angus has his, Nazir has his, Peggy has this, and many a times it might correspond. But allow people to say what they say. And this is not actually why I intervened, but I'm just asking you for a little bit of forbearance, and I understand your frustration. But when I see a whole lot of good things that Angus has mentioned, I'm saying it doesn't mean that him and his party is doing a lot of good, but the points that he's making is actually something that we can take some cognizance on. And yeah, I'm going to ask you, all of everybody that's listening, to say one thing. And Peggett's position is there's no excuse for gangsterism and drugs. Now I understand that people want to put systemic problems in there. People want to understand the problem of drug dealing as smokkel for the pot. But you know what? Where does that sort of hopelessness come from? It comes from an you can tell me I don't understand. You can say that Peggy has no clue what's going on in the community. The community knows otherwise. Man. That at the end of the day, it's when we have a hopeless attitude towards crime that we adopt this thing, that we understand that people do crime for the pot. Now I know it's a fact that people do it. But what we have to systematically implement is undoing the thought that this whole issue of it's okay to do crime for the pot must carry on. It's okay to now. You know what? Listening to parents is not even an in thing anymore because parents do the wrong thing as well. So what we must do is know what is right, know what is wrong. Every human being has the ability to distinguish between what is right and wrong. It's our job as sane individuals to, with the help of the Almighty and the guidance of the Almighty, try and bring people to what is right. Now, let me tell you what, from the top politician in this country to many others, in die goeie is uitgesluit, greed is the big problem. So people will sell their mother in order to make a buck. And there are others that will go hungry for 5 days rather than go to crime. So, I'm basically saying the perception that we have to live with gangsterism is a myth. It's nonsense. Each one of us that I've heard speaking now has some good to deliver because we also say gangsterism must die. But we all have our different ways of doing it. And I'm asking that let us give that instance to say, you know what, when I'm a neighborhood watch person, it's not my responsibility to do it. It's out of my goodness that I'm doing it. But when we are asking this issue, I just want to get to this whole system of implementation. That we hear the radio announcers very quickly saying, in a crime bust weekend, there was 1,000 people arrested. It's all nonsense. An arrest has to be followed by an investigation, or an investigation has to precede an arrest. There must be prosecution. There must be conviction. There must be isolation from communities and societies. There must be rehabilitation. And above all, law enforcement has to act as a measure of prevention of crime. It must make you know if you are found out, you will be suffering. And therefore, for the pot, crime is not the way. Rather, do something else. Find work, which is very scarce. But you know what? If I see how criminals' minds work, if they use their same intellect to do what Fadil said, go and dig a trench. Now I'm telling you, I'm also in civil. If I tell a guy, come man, come, Veki, he works for 2 days. Then he thinks, nah man, my merchant behavior give my meer geld as hy om my rug te breek. That's the culture we need to undo. But my friends, I'm hoping I'm
So
not
true.
offending you. I'm saying that when we talk to each other and we say, guys, jy's verkeerd man. I disagree with a whole lot of people. But when we look at ourselves and we say, what is it? Why are we spending this hour with each other? Not because we want to hear our voices, but because there are mothers out there who are crying that their children are dying or their children are killing other children. And therefore, I'm asking that when we are doing what we do, except that there must be a preventative measure. There must be a way that we say, yes, unemployment is a problem, and therefore, how do I encourage others to create employment? But above all, we mustn't be, when the president visits us or some top minister visits us, we mustn't be just flying the flags and eating the food that they give. We need to tell him, "Wag 'n bietjie, sit here, man. What did you do to stop crime? Not to bring it down to manageable levels, to stop it."
I think
Thank you.
also, I just want to say something, thank you, but something quickly. Are we going to eradicate gangsterism in
No.
in Cape Town? We won't be able.
No.
Nowhere in the world do we have a gangster-free zone. I think gangsterism is always going to be part, but we can minimize it. I think that is the thing that we can do. But I just want to give also to the audience. Is there anybody in the audience that they have a question for us? Anybody?
Everybody's
I
listening.
have 1,000 questions.
Please to ask a question. You are welcome to ask one.
My question is very simple.
Yeah.
Why can we not get SAPs and the powers that be go in there and take these people on?
Yeah.
I'm talking about the gangsters,
Yeah.
the drug dealers.
Industry is the big.
Go in there, sort them out. Go deal with them.
So Stan, I think the resident asks a very good question. Why SAPs can't just do this job? Now let's look at something like very quickly drug houses in communities. So drug houses, especially privately owned drug houses, are the responsibility to close of SAPs using legislation called POCA and the Asset Forfeiture Unit. Now, SAPS in the province has not once implemented any of that legislation. So now you need to understand why it hasn't been the case. And it's not because of the hard-working SAPS officers that exist within the force. It is because these officers and the detectives are so under-resourced. We have a detective, for every one detective, has over 250 case dockets. That is because national government chooses not to equip SAPs better and to increase the SAPs resources in this province. So it is very difficult for SAPs to do their job. And then when SAPs do their job, it's the criminal justice system that lets them down, because they will make the arrest. They will arrest the gangster. They will confiscate the drugs. But within 12 hours of that arrest, that gangster will be back on the streets. We have a conviction rate in this country, sadly, of only 3%. That tells you that 7 out of 10 gangsters arrested tonight will be out on the street tomorrow committing the same crimes over and over. And only 3 of those will go through some form of prosecution.
Okay. I'm just going to give over to Nazir quickly. Nazir has been quiet on the other side. Nazir, just over to you. I think you heard what the gentleman asked, why, and we just touched on it earlier on. Why isn't SAPS going into the communities and taking out these guys, the gangsters?
Yeah, I was just listening to Angus. I was just listening to Angus.
We lost you there, Nazir. Your audio
So until Nazir decides to come back.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's
Thanks
a
very
very
much.
simple reason as to why.
Stan. I was just Angus's
Stan.
mathematics. 7 out of 10. Say people are
It's
being
actually seven. It's actually 70%. Sorry,
cute.
sorry, that's
Stan,
70%.
and it's
Yes.
an important. No,
Okay, your line is very slow. What you can maybe do is type us in, if it's possible. I'll read it out maybe in a private chat, because I can't pick you hear you.
So there's a reason why the
Stan,
go there. Are you? Is Nazir gonna go? Because I'm confused.
Okay, talk
So
about this.
there's a reason why we'll never win the war on drugs or gangsters. Never.
yeah,
Industries today. It generates too much money. If the gangsters all start becoming productive members of society, who are we going to sell the guns to? We know that the South African Police Services sells guns to the gangs, but they sell it in bits. 200 to you, 200 to you. They will not sell the 2,000 to you. No, you got to shoot each other. We need 5,000 young men in Pollsmoor every day to make it feasible. Why would we want this to stop? How many mothers pay bail tomorrow morning? How many young men pay drug-related fines tomorrow morning? The industry is too big. This government will never stop it. Fact, the apartheid government brought drugs onto the Cape Flats via Rashid and Rashad Staffi. Fact. The ANC government never closed those channels. There's no intention to stop this war. This is going to come down to ordinary people like you, like I, to organizations like Taga. We can't look to government. Government has left the building long ago. On the issue of what's happening in the fantastic decline in the murder rate in Bonteheuwel. You got 100 deep officers there every day. You got blue lights all day. Those guys are on parade early in the morning. If they leave, those gangsters didn't leave Bonteheuwel. What do you think happens? So we a permanent emergency in Bonteheuwel.
Again, my issue is not you, Fadil. Fadil,
Don't make me drive to your house.
Fadil, you must focus, Fadil. Focus, Fadil. Focus. My issue is, I'm not your issue,
You
Fadil.
don't allow me to do this.
No. Angus, we're gonna allow you now to talk.
Ghostbuster,
Okay.
take a deep breath. Concentrate on your next mayoral campaign. It will fail as well. I'm talking. So.
You need to have a grasp on your own party that you're losing it.
Young kids in Bonteheuwel will have to grow up with blue lights all around him, with policemen all around him, like we did in 1986. He won't know because his daddy was selling us out at the time, so that's normal to him. You understand? And then he's got the call to tell us how fantastic it is. So take away those leap officers. And you know what? When he got the leap officers, I messaged him. I said, well done. Now Bonteheuwel can sleep. But now my issue is, did it kick on? Did we move to the next phase? When do those leap officers come out? When does it normalize? Because that's not normal. I'll tell you this. Last year, the provincial government of this province, safety and security, 394 million rand. That was the size of the budget. This year, it was increased to 800 million rand. Oh, 120% increase. Which one of you feel 120% safer? But they tell us how lucky we are to live under this administration. They send this out, and we're supposed to be grateful. I cannot be grateful. Can't.
I just want to quickly, Nazir Khan chat with us because of his connection, but he said something here in the chat. Stan, we've seen the ability of SAPS bring people to book when there's the right amount of pressure. But sadly, we know that SAPS are not innocent when it comes to crime. We need communities to be involved in community police forums and together come up with plans for crime prevention. And that, for me, that is relevant. That is true what he's saying. I don't know how you guys feel about it. But I think also we have become people that just point fingers. I think the community also start to need to get involved. We know who the culprits are. We know we raise the child, and the problem starts at school. The mother knows the child doesn't do his homework. The mother knows the child doesn't listen to the teacher. And when the teacher comes to the mother, then the mother wants to get the root and take the teacher on. I think we need to start slowly bring back the values we had many years ago. I mean, Fadil, as jou ma gekom het na by die skool, die meneer gesê. Now we need to bring it back. We need to bring it back. You know, yes. Can I just speak to with the question? Yes.
Yeah, maybe my feeling is that getting back to that mother going to deal with the child and so on is probably, from our perspective, more of a pipe dream than getting rid of gangsterism and drugs. So, we can think this way and think that way. Yes, we need to structurally change society, without fighting against each other. But actually, we need to say, then, we must have a multi-pronged approach. But so the multi-pronged approach is, we need experts, and our mothers are experts at teaching each other how to be parents. Dads need to become parents rather than just seeing that, and those are the real issues. We also need to strengthen ourselves to say, moenie bang wees vir die gangsters nie. Don't
Yeah.
even be afraid to wish them away.
Absolutely.
Don't be even afraid to wish them away. Hulle kan aangevat word. We can, because the myth that exists is they can't disappear. The fact that other countries they can't disappear is because those countries also don't want to let them go. Because that drug trade and arms trade in the US is the same problem that we have here. We've imported it from there. So what I'm saying is that if you are in your street and if you are in your neighborhood, maybe let's clean it there. And we can learn from others, but not everybody knows our situation. I, for example, think that I'm on the neighborhood watch also, but the CPF, they just whitewash whatever the police want to say. On another area, the CPFs might be doing a good job. And then you also get SAPs. There are certain individuals in SAPs that are so frustrated because they know they want to get rid of the local drug dealer, but their
Absolutely.
head officer in their police station is preventing them from doing it. So
Totally.
we also, as a community, need to bolster these SAPS officers in order to say, guys, ons kan nie vir almal met dieselfde kam nie. We can't just wipe everybody with the same brush, and therefore we need to take the time to say, if our child is a problem, let's counsel him. If the mother is the problem, let's counsel them. If the merchant is a problem, let's get rid of them. And when the police is a problem, we also must get rid of them. So accountability, my friend. When we're talking about this whole chain, I want to get on to arrests, investigation, prosecution, conviction, and jailing, or whatever we do. The pattern must be, we don't want to hear in a newspaper that there's been 1,000 Mandrax tablets confiscated somewhere, or tick lollies, or whatever you call it. And then the next day, we don't know what happened. There must be public accountability to say, you raided that merchant, who's been arrested, and there must be a public accountability to say, when is this court appearance going to be? What is the prosecutor doing about getting it done, and so on? Now, the world industry can be whatever they are, but the day we make people accountable like that, perchance they might know we can't just go through the process and give statistics, because the weather office can tell you whatever they want to. If there's no water falling, we know it's not raining. So the same thing, they can tell you about 30% down and 30% up. Man, if I still have to look left and right before I can pull my car out of the driveway or before I can get into a taxi, it's a problem. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to give over. We are now 6 minutes past 9, and I'm going to give each one a fair chance of 2 minutes to say something. At the end of the day, we won't be able to find solutions in an hour. But however, we can talk about things. We can exchange ideas. And this is why we're going to have a series of this type of conversations where we go into different communities, different places, and talk about what we can do to better our communities. Because at the end of the day, this is not a problem only that government should sort out. It's something that we should sort out behind closed doors as well. We need to realize we all are stakeholders. So I'm going to give to everyone an opportunity. I'm first going to start with Mr. Angus McKenzie. Yes, Socio-economic. You can stand here and you can talk. We just have somebody here that want to say something.
Okay. Angus and Fado says that the community must also stand together in order to fight crime. Okay. We can stand together if we have government and our councillors behind us.
Yeah.
Because we take the law in our hands with SAP standing around, who gets arrested? Us.
That's right.
Okay? And at the end of the day, we're the ones in jail, and the gangsters are still free.
That's
They're
right.
still there to do their thing. With the youngster that was walking with his mom in Ottery,
Yes.
his mother swears he's not a gangster. Why? He goes to school, he comes home, sits outside with his friends, his mom can't see.
Yeah.
So according to his mom, she reared him
Yes.
well. He's still at school.
Yeah.
But yet, guys drove up to him,
Yeah.
got out, walked to him,
Yeah.
emptied 2 guns on him,
Yeah.
got back in the car,
Yeah. Just drove on.
and just drove off.
Yeah.
The mother did not know he is maybe gangster affiliated because that is not what she saw
Yeah.
in him. So why blame the parent at the end of the day?
That's right.
Thank you.
And I agree with you. In some instances, parents are doing their best. It's peer pressure. It is when they go out there and they meet other people. That's when their mind self changes. So I agree with you there, Sandy. It's a good question. And what you mentioned also, we're gonna need to work together with SAPs, and we're gonna have to, have their backing when we do go out there. Because the only way we're gonna, like I said previously, the only way how we're gonna fight this is if we stand together. Government should know their stakeholders. The people on the Cape Flats should know their stakeholders. Everybody that has the Cape Flats at heart should know each and everybody's opinion matter and that we are stakeholders. So it's like it's not government can't fix this alone. We are gonna have to fix it together. So I'm gonna give over to Mr. Mackenzie, and then I'll give over to Nazir to just speak the last words.
Thanks, Stan. Stan, I think in parting comments, we must really start believing and seeing that gangsters are the overwhelming minority in our communities. There are more good people in our communities than what they are gangsters. We have to take back control in our homes, in our streets, and in our communities. We must accept
God's at work.
that really, to some degree, we have allowed it to happen. We've allowed our child to walk out to the house with a firearm. We've allowed that child back into our house with blood-stained clothing. We've washed his clothing and we've protected that child, full knowing what he did a few hours earlier. We understand that SAPS is seriously needs to be everywhere all the time. The future of our communities is not dependent on a security state that requires policing every 24/7, 365 on every corner and turn. The future of our community sits with good people, community, but there are intakes of gangsters that we can stop together to change that cycle. Now, I can chirp and I can find ways to say the funniest things, but that's not necessary. What is necessary is for us not to use gangsterism as a political tool to gain relevance. What we should around. And my hope and prayer, and I love what the gentleman from Pagat said this evening, my hope and prayer is that some political leaders would grow up and realize that it takes everyone to make the circle
We can stop shooting for one night and children
bigger
dying for one
and
night.
to make our communities I work with everyone. And so I really challenge you, Stan, as the coordinator of this discussion, not just to let it be a talk show, but how can we take the good out of Fadil, the good out of Angus, the good out of Nazir, the good out of my brother from Pagat, and put that together to see our communities become more successful.
Thank you so much, Councillor. I'm going to give over to Nazir. Nazir, can you hear us? We would like to hear from you before we say goodbye. Are you there, Nazir?
You talk so long, man. We'll come through later.
The major discussion that I think
There we go. We still can't hear you. Okay. I'm going to give over to a brother from Pagat quickly. Kasi, anything from you that you want to add, that you want to say?
Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, Stan, thank you very much. Stan, it is very.
Let the councillor
Then
identify himself. So we are not sure who we're talking to.
It's Nazir.
muting them.
Nazir speaking.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's the industry muting me. We have in the fine.
He's breaking up.
Stan, okay, very immature.
Councillor,
Oh, tired.
Nazir, I'm so sorry. I can't hear you. The connection is very bad. It's very, very bad. I do apologize, but I will do. Yeah.
And thank you very much for the time. My
Thank you so much, brother. But I will definitely have you on
try to
just to pick up for tonight. No?
we have to
Over to
fight this.
Kasim. Over to you. Let's just unmute it quickly. There we go. There we go. Just do this quickly. There we go.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for having us. I certainly hope that our the input that we've had was seen as more positive than negative. I believe that we as a community need to build in order to build those that's on the right side, in order, not political right, but on the correct side, in order to fight against what is wrong. We cannot do it without the help of the Almighty Allah, the Almighty God, and without His guidance. We need to seek that all the time, and both guidance and help, because it is only through that that we believe we will go in the right direction. We urge people to say to themselves, this perception that gangsters and drug dealers are invincible, get it out of our minds, get it out of our heads. Pagat wants to be there, but Pagat is not some organization out there. It is when every person in the street decides, I am opposed to gangsterism and drugs, you become that embodiment of Pagat. We want to help. We're not going to choose sides other than the sides against gangsters and drug dealers. We want to be, and we have mechanisms in place where several people are calling on us for help. We hope that we are able to reach out to everybody, and we wish everybody that is trying their little bit all the best, and hope we can do some more of this discussion, not only in studio but in the streets and in the homes of people. I thank you.
Thank you so much, and we'll definitely do more of this. We will go into the streets. We will patrol. I think the idea should be to start this, but to find our ways or the path to work together, because we're not going to do this on our own. We're going to have to work together. Councillor Adams, over to you.
I am playing Candy Crush, man, because somebody on the show doesn't know what he's talking about, and I can't listen to it. So, we've discussed many things tonight, guys, and I wish it was as clear-cut as we made it sound. And I'm not going to be a part of that. I'll tell you where we are. A minimum of 100,000 drug addicts walk the street tonight. Am I right?
Yeah.
We can agree on that.
Yeah.
Each one of them has a minimum of a child. Some 4 or 5. Am I right? We can agree on that.
Yeah.
Yet we are talking about parental guidance here. Where does that child get parental guidance from? We cannot gloss over the uncomfortable facts because they are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? So again, Cape Flats living. There's people on the show tonight that don't know a thing about Cape Flats living. I'm speaking the facts before me, because there's the truth. I've heard people take jabs at me.
Yeah.
Am I negotiating with gangsters? Not a damn. I'm trying to buy one day's peace. One day's peace our mothers don't have. One day without any debt. One day. Then we'll talk about the next day. That's all I want. I don't have a magic wand.
Yeah.
Gangsterism is not going away in my lifetime. I've made peace with that. It's wrong, it's evil, but it's here.
Yeah.
Now we deal with the facts. Can we buy one day's peace? Now I tell you what, it is very easy for me to sit here and do what That councillor that doesn't know the Cape Flats does. I will not negotiate. Gangsterism belongs in jail. One phone call from a gangster and he's surrounded by VIP security. I've seen it. I've seen it. That same man. Our people out there don't have that luxury. Speaking to a policeman, having a conversation with a policeman on the Cape Flats can get you killed. Can we agree? But there's no VIP security for us. When I say us, I refer to me as well. Yet we face this danger. We live with this danger. So we got to live nice when we have to. Am I right? I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask, next time political parties send people to this show, God, look inside your heart and send somebody that knows what they're talking about. You will notice this man didn't address the blue lights and uniforms that the children in Bonteville now regard as normal. He can't address it. Gangsterism, guys, will subside when, like Nazir said, we open this economy. When we free the vacant land.
Yeah.
The biggest drivers to what we're living with. This man comes here to defend it. Good night.
And also, Fadil,
I have to go.
if you can remember many years ago when the economy was so, when we could have worked, when our fathers could work, our brothers could work, crime wasn't so difficult, so a lot. I mean, if you think about to 1994, 1993, before that period, our fathers had works, our brothers had a job. And there wasn't crime. I mean, gangsters didn't have guns. Gangsters used to fight with panga.
Dromdeksel in 'n panga, meneer. Dromdeksel in 'n panga,
I mean,
meneer.
living here has become very expensive, and people can't afford to live here anymore. I mean, we can't afford to buy a house in another area. The houses in Mr. Plain is going for 1.3 million, 1.4 million. We can't even afford that. So I think we need to look at the economy.
So I'm a property millionaire.
You're probably the millionaire, you know. So that is the things that we are facing with. We can't afford to move out of the area because we don't have jobs, you know. Uncle Abu, I'm going to finish up now.
Just before Uncle Abu comes in there. And you know what to top it all?
Yeah.
The leader of the party that governs us, while we were dropping like flies on the Cape Flats, flew to the Ukraine to go investigate why white people are dying a dozen or so. And you know what? That councillor who doesn't know Cape Flats, he defended it on Facebook. Thank you, John. Uncle
Abu, over to you quickly.
Okay, what I'm getting is it's all different issues. So like, you know, we all look at the world through a lens and we all look at the world differently. But it's not wrong, it's a perception. And everyone has a point. I'm not saying this one is right. Everyone has a point. We have to take all those issues and bring it together and then find a solution, because everything that was talked about now is just about issues. But there's no solution that's really taking place. So by having a solution, having a system. Now I've been away, I've been in Dubai for 24 years, and it's almost zero crime there. And I'm back here for 2.5 years. And I'm looking at the system, that we don't have a system. So you have in Dubai, you have the police, who's doing their job. And then they have the CID, which is the Criminal Investigation Department, which is the people. But it's called the criminal. So anyone who wants to join the CID is the people.
Yeah.
Right? So what I've seen, here in Cape Town, you have the SAPS, Metro, SAPS, right?
Yeah, SAPS.
And people are paying tax to them for what? For their safety and security.
Yeah.
Right? Now there you have the police and you have the CID, who's also getting paid. But here you have non-profit organizations who's doing better jobs than the SAPs is doing. I'm sorry to say that, but it's a fact. I saw on the Cape Flat stories, I saw a video clip on Picketberg.
Yeah.
And there was a police and Packet.
Yeah.
But Packet is the people against gangsterism and drugs.
Yeah.
And Packet actually went in.
Yeah.
You know, because it was only the police there. I don't think they would have done it, because for the time that I've been here, I've seen that they don't actually do anything, but the people have to pay tax for them.
Yeah.
But Packet is actually doing the dirty. It's almost like playing rugby.
Yeah.
You get the guy who's the wing, and then you get the guy who's the forward, who's the flank.
Yeah.
Who's grafting on the ball.
Yeah.
You know? So what they should do is get Packet in as the criminal investigation department.
Yeah.
And give them permission as the people against gangsterism to help to sort this out.
Yeah.
But give them permission, give them that right, because they are the ones you see someone standing by someone's door, drunk or something, hey, pataka, like, I where you from, whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
And that is how you can eradicate crime. By just doing simple things. The other thing is also people's IDs.
Yeah.
People have too many human rights here. Human rights is for law-abiding citizens.
Yeah.
Human rights is for law-abiding citizens. It's not for criminals.
That's right.
Unless that criminal becomes law-abiding, then it applies to you. You see, so that's also one of the laws that
we need to look at. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I see that man, this man, standing by my door. I don't have the right to say anything to you.
Yeah.
No, I must have said, pataka. It's ID. Where's your ID?
Yeah.
Don't have an ID, okay, I need to sort you out.
Yeah.
You have an ID, okay, yes, you're from here, or you're not from here.
Yeah.
An illegal immigrant.
Yeah.
But we don't have those. We don't have a system.
And you are right, Uncle, because the thing is this, we have become so much, everybody is allowed to do everything. And we need to look at that. We need to look at how our government can actually protect us. Our government also need, a lot of these guys go to prison and they have a good time there. They should actually, back in the day, they had what we call, I don't know, for Angus base, they had hard labor. Hulle het gewerk in die tronk. And I think that is one of the things that they need to bring back. Prisoners must work and they must be rehabilitated. They come out and they actually worse. They come out and they haven't changed and they become actually, hardcore criminals. It's like a university when they go to prison. So that's the things that our government needs to look at. People are not being rehabilitated in prison. You have guys coming out. I mean, a lot of the girls that disappeared recently, last year and the year before, it was guys that came from prison for sexual offenses that actually kidnapped these girls. And you know what they did? Some of them killed, like the Tesla girl from out there, and that is a problem, But I'm going to stop now. We had a lot to say tonight. I want to say thank you to Angus McKenzie, Councillor. Thank you for joining us. I want to say thank you to our brother from Pagat. Brother Kasim, thank you so much for joining us. And we will have this conversation again. We will have more people joining us. And we will go on a road trip where we talk about this, where we have parents coming in. And we should make this available so that people can start giving. People's opinion really matter. It seems as if the government, people are being kept quiet. People are being kept away from, expressing themselves. So thank you so much. And I hope to see you guys very soon.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Pagat. That was EFF, Ward Councillor of Montevideo, Angus McKenzie, and then we had Councillor Father Adams as well. We will be doing this again next week. I spoke to Minister Regan. Alan, he will be joining us, and I'm trying to get Bekechelia as well, so we will be speaking to him as well, hopefully, or one of his representatives. We need to talk about this. We need to bring an awareness about this, because I've noticed, nobody knew about Ottery until Cape Flint Stories, and I'm going to put it out. They started speaking about Ottery, and this is why this platform is here, to bring out things like this so that people know there's other people living on the Cape Flint. Not everybody is a gangster living here. Not everybody wants a handout. We are hardworking citizens, and we need government to protect us and look after us. So thank you so much for everybody that joined us, and please do next week in Monday night again. Cheers, guys. Good evening.